Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well. I am excited today because the guest I have today comes with a ton of experience. We have with us David Wilson, EVP of Digital Performance and Analytics at Zozimus Agency. He also owns a boutique agency, Braveheart Digital Marketing. Welcome, David, and thank you for taking our time.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me on. I'm excited to be here.
Same here, man. Same here. So, David, before we start our discussion, why don't you, introduce yourself and tell us about your role at Zozimus and how does your day-to-day look like?
So I am EVP of Performance Marketing and Analytics. What that means is I oversee our paid media, a PPC, SEO, analytics, and social media groups within our agency. And then also on a day-to-day basis, working with clients on their media plans, on trying to help them get their goals, especially in this time when there's so much uncertainty. It's sort of talking to them, working with them, and trying to understand how we can help them navigate through this situation.
So, David, you said that you look at the overall marketing, whether it's SEO, it's paid media, and considering the situation we are in today, what have you experienced lately while either talking to the clients or from the campaigns that are going on?
So we see two things happening at the moment. There's a series of clients who are pulling back, who are saying we're really worried about whether we're going to be in business in 90 days, 180 days, and they are pausing all of their marketing campaigns, right? And I think that's something that we're seeing globally. We see another subset though who are saying we have cash. We feel that this is an opportunity for us to gain market share, to go out into the market and to run and launch new campaigns. And so, we get to see that piece of it too, which is interesting just to see how different companies, even sometimes within the same verticals, how those leaderships are making those decisions. Are we going to pause and sort of pull back, or are we going to be aggressive and go forward? And then we get the ones who are in the middle who are still doing what they were doing before, but it's a focus. It's not an in-person meeting that they're advertising. It's virtual meetings. It's sort of they're adjusting their ad copy to what the new world looks like.
Right. Talking about ad copies, what are the main setbacks or changes you have realized as far as the paid campaigns are concerned?
From a paid campaign, it's just going back and it's looking at each of the pieces of ad copy that we put together, whether it's a PPC ad or a display ad, and just say, does that resonate today? Is it talking about, if it's a college, come visit our college or university? That's ad copy that was great 8 weeks ago, but it's not great anymore, right? So you need to be able to update that to make that a virtual tour. If it's a sports, you're selling sports goods, it's not to play as a team. It's maybe something you can use in your backyard, right? So it's been able to look at all of those different types and just look at that messaging and saying, is this message on target now? And we've probably updated, I would say, maybe 15-20% of our ad copy, and we continually go through it. To go through and to audit it and to just make sure that it's now, the messaging we have is now on point for the coronavirus, because we know that that's not going to go away anyway soon. So we just want to constantly make sure that the old ad copy we have it speaks to today's situation, and anything new that we put out again is focused on the circumstances today.
Right. Any major change in any particular metric you have realized, like like cost per clicks for some industries, or anything like worth sharing?
I think what we're seeing is an increase in the US in virtual keywords that you wouldn't get before. So we're starting to see a spike in that. I think the data we pulled yesterday or the day before was the first 5 or 6 days of April, the number of searches for virtual related keywords was more than what we saw in all of March, right? So there's a change in user behavior there for that. In some markets, we're starting to see a decrease in CPC, because a lot of companies are pulling back. So, as I said, for companies who want to be aggressive, there certainly is an opportunity within certain markets. Now, if you're in the space for, work from home, VoIP, and remote workforce, I'm sure that the cost for those keywords has skyrocketed over the last 6 or 7 weeks, just because that's the hot space to be at the moment. But in other parts of the PPC universe, there's certainly a decrease in what we're seeing, a decrease or dampening of PPC fees.
Yeah, I mean, look at Zoom, what we are using today for our call.
Yeah.
So perfect. But, like you said, I mean, it's still a perfect time to do SEO because, at the end of the day, it's about organic rankings and results when it comes to SEO. You have been doing marketing from 2001, if I'm not wrong. So, with so much experience under your belt, I think you are the perfect person, to ask this question to. How do you calculate? I mean, is there a formula you use when you have to calculate the ROI from your SEO efforts?
For almost every client that we do SEO, there's a KPI that we're trying to hit, right? And it's not website traffic, it's not rankings, and it's not website traffic. What we want to get down to is, leads which turn into sales and ultimately sales revenue, because that's where we can show the value of SEO. If you show a client that you have a #1 ranking, but they don't get any more leads, then does that #1 ranking mean anything to them? My opinion, no. I always go back to working with a small client many years ago and launching an SEO campaign for him. And I'm like, how are you going to measure success? And his comment was, when the phone rings more, I will know that this is working, right? So I think when we do SEO or any digital campaign, we want to drive it down to, can we measure success from a lead standpoint or a revenue standpoint? And if we can do that, then not only can we show you the value of the SEO work that we're doing, but we can also then show you revenue per SEO visitor, which means now we can start to talk about, now we know how much every SEO visitor is. If we make these changes to the website and we can improve your rankings and get you more traffic, now we can put dollars and cents around how much that additional traffic is worth. And for most businesses, that starts to become eye-opening, because the conversation then isn't, we're going to improve your rankings, is we're going to drive another 100,000 visitors to your website, and that's going to generate, $500,000 in revenue. Then it's, as a business owner, then they look at it and say, well, why would we not do that?
Right.
And so it allows, if you can measure everything down to revenue, it allows you to change the focus from rankings to, we're moving the business in a better direction. And I find that business owners and CMOs, VP marketing, are much more receptive to that conversation than just, we're going to increase your page 1 rankings, or we're going to add backlinks to your website.
Right, because then it gives them a value to look at, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's now, from an SEO standpoint, we're talking to clients on a business to business standpoint, right? We're coming into this saying, we understand your business. We're going to help you grow your business with the metrics that you use internally. We should normally write leads and opportunities and close one. So now we're going to tie SEO into that, and we can show you that value. And I think it takes some of the mystique out of SEO, because I still find a lot of companies still have a hard time understanding what SEO really is. And if we can bring this down to, we're going to increase your revenue by this, that becomes a much different conversation and a better conversation. And I find an easier conversation with business owners.
Right, right, absolutely. Also, David, I mean, how does your SEO process look like? If you have to, explain it step by step, how would your typical SEO process look like?
So as our SEO process starts upfront with a technical audit, right? What are the issues on the website that's causing Google to not, index and rank the pages that's on the website? So that's always the first thing that we do. So we go through that. Then our process is, then we'll start to look at, what are your competitors doing from an SEO standpoint? Where are they strong? Where are they weak? What's the important keywords to them? With them, we take that information, then we start to do a content audit to look and say, okay, we feel that these are the areas that's opportunity for you, and what's the keyword volume around that? What do we need from a content roadmap? And then we take that, and then we lay out a plan for the next 9 months for the client. So it's like, okay, these are the technical issues on the website, page speed, canonicals, wherever it happens to be. We're going to fix that. And then we're going to need new content across the website. So this is what those content buckets are going to look like. Now we're going to develop it, and now we're going to put that. So that's sort of the first 3 months for us. Sort of, it lays out the roadmap for the rest of the year.
Right. So when you do the competition analysis, would it be looking at the links to see from where they're getting the juice from? And what about, the keywords? I mean, would you even look at, let's say, common extra keywords like across competitors, or how would you go about doing the actual competition analysis? Because see, tools like, Href, SEMrush, I mean, they do give an automated report, but how do you, or what factors do you actually work on while actually doing the competition audit?
That's a good question. So let me start with the links, and then we'll go into the keywords. So part of the analysis is looking and saying, for each of our competitors, what are the most valuable links? What are those links coming from? What are the pages that they are going to? And then also start to look and see who's linking to multiple competitors that's not linking to the client, because they're normally the easiest ones to go after. So you take those 3, 4, 5 competitors, and you start to see, okay, these websites are linking to these 4, but not to the client. So now we get a link in there also. It sort of dilutes the power that all the other competitors got, because we have the same link as they do now. So they don't have that over top of us, right? So we use that. And then by utilizing it and looking at what that link data is, it allows us to start to look and say, okay, based on this, we feel that here's some opportunities for us. Here's some places that we feel that we can get high value links that our competitors are not, because we've mapped their background. So that allows us from a backlink standpoint, again, to create that roadmap and say, these are the easier links that we can get, that takes out that competitor stuff. And then this is where we can start to build momentum and start to push our client ahead of the competitors by going after and targeting these websites. And it's a similar thing from keywords. Is looking at saying, what's the keywords for the client. One of the things that we look at with them is, what's that growth been in rankings, right? So if you use SEMrush, you can go back over 2 years, and you can get a sense for, have our competitors get hit with a Google penalty, or are they actively, are we seeing an up to the right trend in keywords that they're ranking for, which probably indicates they've got an SEO consultant in house, or they've hired an agency to do it. So just by looking at historical backlinks, historical rankings, you get a really good sense about how involved a competitor is from an
Right.
SEO standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
and that obviously plays into our plans, because it's easier then to go to the client and say, here's your top 3 clients. They're all actively increasing their keywords and rankings. Here's the chart from that. That's why you need us, and this is why you need to do this in order to keep track.
Right. Uh, would you also, for some keywords, would you also tell the client that this would be the maximum he can expect? So let's say for a keyword, Wikipedia is ranking or taking the first position. So would you talk to the client about such keywords, include those in your strategy, and tell him that we can get up to 2 for this keyword, and do discussions like those happen, or you just talk about finalizing the keywords and then talking about the end goal, which is revenue and numbers?
Yeah, we don't get into, we think we can get you position 2 on Google, and that's as good as we can get, because Wikipedia, for example, is number 1. It's like, these are the keywords that we want. Our goal is to get you onto page 1 on Google, hopefully to get you above the fold. And we can use the click-through rate numbers to sort of, ballpark out what that would mean from a traffic standpoint. And then the idea behind them is just to drive traffic. So I can be okay being position 4 if my click-through rate is higher than yours at position 2. And that's why I can get that advantage. If I'm position 2, but your meta tags are way better than mine, and you have some rich snippets in there that you get a higher click-through than mine. And so for us, it's traffic, right, that converts into leads and sales is the part that we focus on.
Absolutely, absolutely. When it comes to analyzing links, now it's easier to look at those backlinks which the competition has. But how do you go about deciding or choosing the next set of links that a client has to do? And also, what parameters would you look at while choosing or deciding whether the link actually is worth it or not?
Whether the link is worth it, a lot of it is just a manual check, right? I mean, there's a lot of third party data. There's third party tools that you can look at. Whether you're using the Moz data, and whether you're using link research tools data, and at the end of the day, we just check the page, and we just look at the page, and we look at the site, and we say, is this where we want our client to be? It's almost as if, if you're doing PPC advertising and you're doing display advertising, you're like, do we want our client's ad to be on this page? Yes or no? And for me, it's the same from an SEO standpoint. So the first thing that we're going to do is, as we put together the list that we want to do, that we want to target, is, let's go in there and let's manually check it. It's easy to put a whole bunch of links that, in title, in URL equals keyword, but most of them are junk. And so manually, we'll get rid of the low ranking ones, the low score ones, the ones that seem okay from a score. We will manually check them to pair out the ones which just don't meet our criteria.
Right, right. And what about, a good website which has some decent, DA, DR, but very less traffic? Would you include such websites as well in the backlink profile?
Yes, because there's some high quality websites which have little traffic. Here's an example would be college library websites, or local town and city library websites. Don't get a ton of traffic. Highly authoritative, because they're all manually checked by a librarian before they're going to put that link on their website. So high authority, low traffic, extremely valuable.
Right, right. And then, when you talk about doing the content audit and, creating a content outline, any like useful tools you're using to maybe compare, let's say for a particular keyword, the content of top 10 pages, and based on that, when you plan the content for a page, I mean, are there any useful or main tools, your go-to tools for that?
Yeah, my favorite tool is one out there called MarketMuse, MarketMuse. It's a machine learning AI sort of algorithm that allows you to look at a page, compare it, and a page of content you have, compare it to the top 10 pages in Google, and gives you a sense for, this is what you need to do to get this page ranking higher. Whether it's more words, but not only is it more words, but these are the synonyms to use. These are the types of questions that you should be answering on the page. These are some resources that you can link out to. So I find that that's the best tool that's out there that allows me to sort of put together a content brief, content map that either I can hand over to our people or go back to the client and say, okay, you need to update this page and this is how, or you need to develop new content and here's a content brief that allows you to hand that off to your writers.
Right. And how often do you do, like, once you do the audit first time and then you start working, on the content, on the links, how often do you go back and do the basic audit of, checking the keywords or maybe adding the keywords or even doing the technical audit again?
Depends on client and how long implementation is, because there's some clients, and that I'm sure you're familiar with it, you can do the technical audit, you can give them the recommendations, and it's 6 months and they still haven't implemented them yet. And there's some that they get it done within 30 days. So sometime between 6 and 9 months after we've had things implemented, or we've started down this process, and we'll start to do something more in depth. What we try to do on a quarterly basis is just do a quick competitor audit, just to get a sense for, these are the top 10 important keywords that we have. Is anything changed in the SERPs around these keywords? That maybe there's a new competitor that wasn't there when we did the audit 90 days ago. So we try to recycle it on a quarterly basis, just for the most important terms of the client, so that we're just aware of anybody news came into the market, that we can bring this up with them.
Right. I remember reading somewhere, you talked about you were managing some sports websites, and suddenly for some time you stopped doing links to it, and you realized that you lost a lot of revenue. Could you tell us something, like a little bit more about it?
You mean my $100,000 backlink mistake?
Oh, yeah, I remember it now. I think 90,000 is what you had written.
It was 90,000. It was $90,000. So we went through a prop. We get hit with a Google penalty on one of our sites, which means our revenue dropped. Instead of saying, okay, let's fix this, it was one of the animal ones, one of the panda ones or something like that. Instead of, okay, let's figure out what's wrong with this and let's rebuild the content around this, right? There was a big decrease in revenue. So we put our link, we had 3 link people, full-time link builders working for us, and we let them go. Well, what that meant was we weren't adding any new links to the website. I think some of the research I've done in the past about link decay, right? Something in the ballpark of 25% of the websites on the internet that are there here today will not be there, or pages will not be there in 12 months time. Right. So not only will we not add in consistently new links to the website, we were actually losing links because of this decay. And when we look back over 12 months later, that because we hadn't been adding fresh links, we calculated it was a $90,000 decrease in revenue because we did not have a consistent link building program. Link building is definitely one of those things. It's sort of, you just have to do it every day. Right. Every day, every week, every month, right? It's consistent. You can't say, okay, I did my link building for 3 months, I'm good. Let me, cross that off my checklist and let me move on to something else. because of the link decay that's out there, that if you don't consistently add to it, you're actually going to go backwards and not forwards.
No, absolutely. And it's not a number you can just calculate, let's say I'll see the competition has, let's say, 1,000 links, which means I just need to do 1,000 divided by 12, in a year's time,
Yeah,
right? There is
yeah.
constantly link erosion happening. Competition is doing more links. But still, if, like as an agency, if I still have to kind of calculate the average number of links I should do in a month, how should I go about it? How do I calculate what is, like what kind, or what, I mean, the kind is fine, but how do I calculate the number?
That's a really hard question because you're not doing it in a vacuum, right? We're adding links to a lot of times it's either going to be existing content that's on the website that we've updated and refreshed, right? We've fixed the technical issues on the site, so the site is more crawlable, indexable, and loads faster.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like if we don't do anything else and we add 10 links, say, a month to this page, then that's why our rankings went up. So I always find that a really difficult question. I think that part of it is working with the client and understanding what have they historically done from a backlink standpoint, right? If you've been in business for 3 years and you have 70 domains linking to you, so you've averaged about 2 domains a month linking to you. I think if you start to add 20 per month linking to you, right? I think you in my opinion, you trigger an alert somewhere that someone's going to look at that and say, that seems unnatural.
No, absolutely.
So I think you have to look at what's that historical data and say, okay, maybe we want to get to 20, but maybe that's 12 months we get to that point. And now, we're at 2, so now we're going to do 3 and then 4 and 5 and slowly build our way up to it. So it looks natural and it flows instead of going from 0 to 20 or 50, 100 links in a month. And then it's just all these spikes. And I feel that that's where a lot of websites get themselves into trouble when they try to expand their backlink profile too quickly.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I was doing a research last month, and I came across a website, and I think they had done like thousands of links in, like around 2 months time. And I was like, what are they doing? But yeah, you're right. Also, one more thing when it comes to links is when you're choosing the anchor text, you would normally want to, even if it's a long tail, anchor text, but it has to be very natural and look natural in the link, rather than just having
Mm-hmm.
the direct anchor as the money keyword as the anchor text. But
Mm-hmm.
still, I mean, does it still differ? Like, if let's say I'm doing 10 links, out of which 9 have a long tail keyword and just 1 has the direct exact match keyword, would it like make a difference as compared to if I had, let's say, all 10 having the direct money keyword as the anchor text?
Yeah, I definitely think you need to mix it up. So whether it's a combination, I think thereof. There's the money keyword, there's the long-term keyword. I think also thrown in some occasional ones that just say click here, website name that's going there, because that's natural, right? If you look at links across the net, they're not all money keywords or long-term keywords. A lot of them are just click here, website here, or website name, things of that nature. So you look at that and you say, that's a normal mixture, and that's what I'm going to get. So it's a mixture of all three. It's sort of money, long-term, and in essence, it's just a good link and it's not a good anchor text, but that's okay because, as I said, that's a normal link profile that you would expect to get. And I find that combination and just being able to play with what's that ratio between those three groups varies from industry to industry, sector to sector. And so understanding what's a good ratio within, something that might be affiliate marketing versus something that's B2B marketing, right? The ratios between the three of them are going to be very different. And you just need to understand what it is within that.
Right, right. Uh, also, David, I mean, when we talk about evolution of content, right? I mean, you have infographics which you can use, you have videos which you can use. How do you go about choosing for a particular page, what kind of content we should go with?
I think at the end of the day, that page is telling a story. Mm-hmm. And so it's looking and saying, what's the best way for me to tell the story? And, we can transcribe this, right? And it's useful blog content, but it's going to be, thousands of words. Mm-hmm. But if you really want to sort of understand how our conversation went, the best medium for that is probably going to be video, right? And that's why this is a video conversation and not a Q&A via email. And so I think that's part of it. It says, is this data, right? If it's an infographic, are we talking about data that we can pull in an infographic and it tells the story much better than if we just write in the copy? Is this a page that people are asking a lot of questions on Google around, that we can create almost an FAQ style page and mark it up well from a content standpoint? Is this interviews, and it's primarily going to be video that will put the transcript underneath? So I think it's understanding, as I said, what's the best way to tell the story on that page? And then once you understand that, then look at saying, okay, what tactic within SEO, within content am I going to use to tell this story best? I hate infographics that are there just for the sake of an infographic, because somebody thought that 5 years ago they were a good way to embed them and get links. Right. Some of them that are done really well are great, and people love to share them. But it's what's the best way to tell that story? And I think if we keep that in mind, it ends up making the page better. It means that people are going to stay on the page longer, which ultimately is going to help us from an SEO rankings perspective, because right, that engagement number is definitely part of Google's algorithm. So that's my answer to that.
Right. Also, talking about using infographics as, link magnets, what we also call as power pages, that, you have a very good infographic page on your website, which is telling the story. It has relevant data, it's telling the story. You're using that page to get multiple backlinks. But also, if the infographic, is telling data, then there might come a time where, maybe that data is obsolete, or, we can actually, refresh the existing infographic. So in that scenario, would you suggest working on the same infographic, because, the existing page, the existing URL already has a lot of value, so just, refurbishing that? Or would you suggest maybe creating a new page with fresh data?
I would definitely refresh on the existing page. I'm a huge fan of evergreen content. So being in Boston, being a sports fan, I would just go down a sports analogy to sort of answer this. If I'm doing a web page and it's New England Patriots NFL team, if I'm doing a ticket page for them, I would have two options. I can do New England Patriots, right, 2020-21 tickets. Mm-hmm. And then next year I can change the URL, or I can just do New England Patriots tickets. Right. And that just becomes an evergreen, and all those links that build up over time. And I think it's the same with that. It's like if you have an infographic that has a page that has backlinks to it, it's already ranking. If by swapping out the infographic on it, it allows you now to add more links to that page than what you already have. So you've maintained the links that page has, and now you have an opportunity to go out and get more links, versus if you create a new page, now you're taking that link equity and dividing it amongst 2 pages. And I would much rather keep it on 1 page and allow those links from, infographic 1, 2, and 3 over time to build up, because that page will then slowly move up the rankings and solidify itself at that top spot.
Right, right. Before we wrap up for today, you are one of those persons who seems, he already knew what he wanted to do, because, you graduated in economics. So you have that analytical mind, and you have been doing marketing since 2001. You come across a lot of people, they were in different field, and then they came to marketing and are doing what they're doing now. So, having said that, to all the marketers out there, looking at all these years of experience, a lot of things have changed in SEO, in marketing overall. So what would be your top 3 main things that you see growing and should be main focus areas of all the SEOs out there?
I think data has become more and more important across everything. And so you have to be comfortable working with data. And, whether that's looking at expected click-through rates on pages, you just have to be comfortable with data, looking at traffic data and that. So I think that's the first part. And you have to be curious, because SEO and digital marketing is constantly changing, and we're going through one of those changes right now. So you have to be curious to look and be able to see what's going on outside my sphere of influence that I can take back to SEO. An example is, when we work with clients, one of the ways that when we talk about targeting keywords, circling back to that part of the conversation, if I'm running a paid campaign, I want to know is, what are the keywords that on the paid side that we are converting, right? And I want to make sure that we rank number 1 for those keywords. And because I know that I should target that keyword, because if I rank highly for it, I'm going to drive leads and sales, right? And if I'm number 1 organically, then maybe I can take that paid money and put that somewhere else. So you have to be curious about what's going on the other areas. And I think that the third thing is, you have to experiment. You have to have a willingness to experiment. It's an old SEO joke around, when you become an SEO, when you get your first Google penalty, because you realize that you did something that you shouldn't have done. You went too far, and now you have to figure that out. So you need to be able to experiment and try different things on your own. The number of times in my career that, I've sat down with a client and said, we're going to change your title tags, or we're going to change this on your website, because, I've been doing this on my own, and it works. That's the sort of data that clients are looking for, because SEO to them is still this unclear, that they're not quite sure what they're getting with it. But when you can bring in stories to say, when we update title tags for clients, we see a 40% increase in search impressions.
Right.
That's what we're seeing currently right now, and it's just like, oh, okay, so that's what I'm going to get, right? So it's been curious. It's been able to look at data and help you pull that together. And I think these are the traits to me that the SEOs that have been super successful at the moment are doing.
Well, I mean, thank you so much, David, for, all the information you've given us. I wish, we had more time, but definitely next time, we'll try to have more conversations with you and try to get more knowledge bombs from you.
It's been my pleasure. It's been a great conversation. So thank you.
Thank you so much, man. You take care.
Thank you.